And welcome back to the Hooded Nib series, I guess I'll call it. And we have our next pen in front of us, and this is a Soviet Union era pen. I'm going to wait on the name until I can look it up and make sure I know how to pronounce it, but that's, I'll go ahead and spell it. S-O-Y-U-Z is the name. I'm going to try to rehearse that a little bit before I say it, but this is a what looks to be a Parker 51 knockoff, or a copy, maybe homage if you want to be very generous. But we have the classic kind of pull-off cap. We have the hooded nib section area here. We have this nice clutch ring. We have the barrel, and rather than be an aerometric, we have this kind of almost buttony type filler. But what I showed you before, it's not a button, it is an accordion filler. So step one, before we even get too much into it, let's go ahead and get this sucker apart, which this one's actually pretty easy. I'll go ahead and take this blind cap off, lefty-loosey, just like usual, but this part is righty-loosey. It is a reverse threaded barrel. So I'm twisting it to the right to make it come off. So something to be mindful. And I happened to see this online. I thought it was Wasky Squirrel on YouTube, but I went through his videos and I could not find it. Maybe I just overlooked it, and maybe it's somebody else, I don't know, but I'll try to find where I originally saw this pen and got interested in what it was. But we take off the barrel, we're left with this nice accordion, this kind of clear part where you can maybe see your ink level, and then this area up here that's a little more dirty. I'll bring it up close, but you can see a breather tube in there as well. So let's go ahead and take off these little rings. There should be 3 of them, or maybe it'll be easier to get the top off. Ooh, it came off before. There it goes. This up here is a lefty-loosey, so just the barrel gets the righty-loosey. So I'm going to take this off. And it pulls off. There's the hood. And we have something that resembles a collector, so maybe better than some of the other hooded nibs. We have something that looks like it's actually surrounding and bathing that feed. So actually, you know, probably a better Parker 51 knockoff than many of the others have been. So we'll go ahead and get these rings off. We have a thin one, we have a medium, kind of a little thicker one, and we have another thin one. So come on, yeah, that way it comes off better. So there we go. We have these 3 things. Move them to the side. I kind of clean up my area here, and so we have just like a Parker 51. Ooh, that is a long breather tube. So we have our breather tube, pops right out. That is long. Holy cow. We have our collector-ish kind of a thing, and we should be able to kind of gently rotate and twist out from this collector here our feed. Very simple, very smooth, very plain, very slender, just like a Parker 51. We have our tubular nib, and this one does look like it's probably going to be gold, long and slender. I wonder if it has a little bit of flexibility, maybe a little bit, but we'll find out once we kind of get it back together. And I'll wait until we get it all shined up to kind of show up close. And then, yeah, it looks like, and I'm not going to mess with it, but here is this kind of very soft accordion in between this little clear section here. So this is probably adhered right there, and then it is adhered again to this little section up here. And I'm going to go blow in it, see if I hear a leak or feel a leak, but if not, I'm just going to soak and clean, and not mess with this. As this is a good seal, I don't know that I want to mess with it, but if it did come apart, it sounds like you could just kind of re-adhere, as long as this isn't broken. So here's hoping. Yep. nothing blowing out, and I could kind of make a good vacuum and it would compress itself a little bit. So I think this is in good working form. We'll just have to clean it up and see how clean and clear we can get it before putting it back together, but that is it. Actually, you know, aside from not, you know, I don't think I had to soak this or heat this, because I think it just came and I tried it and everything came apart nicely. So maybe even a little bit easier to take apart than a Parker 51, because that hood on a Parker 51, oh man, that can be a bear. So let's kind of line it back up, do the exploded view, which I like to do so much. And is everything on camera? Yeah, I think so. We'll put this here-ish. We'll just kind of make that one up there. And of course, we've got these through rings. So not exactly the most logical way of laying it out, but it works. So here it is. Let me go ahead and get it cleaned up. And I will say that there are a few imprints on here. There's an imprint there, which I'll show. Yeah, let's just show now. Let's just see. There we go. Maybe we can see a little bit. But maybe when I get it cleaned up, I'll play with the focus a little bit more. But nothing else, just that. And anything on the hood doesn't look like it. Looks like it's just a clean, shiny hood. And other than there is a little bit of texturing here on the base of the blind cap, so be wary of that. Don't just sand over that or micro mesh over that. But everything actually looks pretty good. Even the cap, it doesn't look like it has really, let me just see, there's kind of a nice little line where this is kind of rotated. Oh, I guess I had one extra part I could do. Let me zoom back out and just show. So the jewel looks like the jewel itself does screw out. Oop. We have this little crown bit. We have this much simpler little thin topped clip, which looks kind of like, almost like a Waterman, kind of like a waterfall clip. So that looks pretty good. A little blending of makes. And then we have this nice kind of part of the inner cap where everything screws into. So even better, we can clean everything even more fully. So now let's say that's fully taken apart, and I'm not going to try to worry about that little jewel. That just seems silly to try to make that come out. So, but it looks like it might also just thread in kind of like a Parker 51 jewel would. So maybe an additional step, but a step I don't think you need to take. So let's go ahead. I'll do my soaking, I'll do my polishing, and I'll go ahead and take the micro mesh to a little bit of, like, there's some usual wear, but I think I can do a little bit better job than just doing the plastic polishes. So I think I will do that. We'll come back and we'll get it back together and do our usual writing sample, and we'll see how this particular hooded nib compares to our last. And welcome back. I have everything polished up and I think it turned out really well. I'm just going to highlight a few things while we get it back together and kind of just save the showing the whole thing off until we get it fully together and just ready to write. But since this is going to be a hooded nib, let me show you a little bit of the insides. And let's go ahead and see the nib. And I'll try to focus. It might be a little bit difficult. And I tried to see with the loop what's on here so I can describe it to you. Hopefully you can get a little bit of the glare. But it really looks like there is a diamond. Can I do any better than this? Maybe. Okay. No, it's just going to be this. Okay. But let's see if you can kind of see. So there's a diamond with a C, kind of just under. There's the breather hole. There's and there's a little bit of a, almost like it's a little piece of the nib that's kind of up to maybe to be a stop into this. So it's kind of a little stopper. Then just below that, hopefully I didn't screw up too much, a little diamond with a C, and I don't know Cyrillic and I don't know what else to call that, but it appears to be a C. And just below that, within a larger, the whole thing's contained within like a little rectangle, is what looks like to me a 6-6. I don't know if that means anything else in Russian. And then down here on this side is a little box with another little imprint, which I don't know what that means either. So I'm just hopefully let you see it. And if anybody knows, please feel free to mention something in the comments about what this could mean. I don't know if that's a purity stamp indicating the goldness of it, or a year, or anything else like that, but that's what I'm seeing. Then we can turn it around. There's also another little marking down at the bottom left, which I kind of didn't notice. Oh yeah, it's definitely, oh, there's the looks like a 583 with another little kind of a star underneath it. That's what this little imprint is. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, and there's a tube, and then there's a little notch. So the notch and this little pushed out section of the nib maybe help it set itself a little bit. So there's the best I can do for that. Sorry for the headache. I sniffed my nose a little bit. It's like 20 degrees out, so I'm a little bit sniffly since I was just outside. And here's the accordion filler, and I debated a little bit. This is a nice black kind of rubber, and everything else cleaned up pretty well. This has some staining. I couldn't really get anything down in here to do any scrubbing, so I think that's what I'm going to be left with. And I debated, and I actually almost started to do it. Like maybe I could heat this, peel it down, re-adhere it, just make everything fresh. But I hesitated because, you know, what if I'm peeling this down, I rip it, I mess it up, and I don't have a replacement for this or something easily to replace it. And, you know, I blew air into it, I sucked air out of it. So this is actually really supple still, and it has a good seal here. If I get in trouble, maybe I can just put a layer of shellac around here or this other side just to make sure that the seals are maintained. But this is going to be the original. I'm not going to take it off, reapply it. I'm going to, if it's good, I'm going to leave it. So that's the other thing I kind of contemplated a little bit. But if we lay it back, I think we have everything else kind of, you know, in a spot where we can put it back together. So let's go ahead and do a few things. And since we've already taken it apart on camera, let's see if we can do it fairly quickly. So I'm going to try to do the collector first. Kind of lay that together, put that in there. And is there a point where it wants to naturally self-seat? No. How far does that go down? Yeah, looks like if you set the feed in, the feed will only go so far. If you hit seat the nib in, it will only go so far. So I'm going to call that self-seating. And there we go. I'm trying to get that lined up. We can take the breather tube, and is there a taper to it? Maybe this side is a little more tapered than the other. So I'm going to go ahead and set that into the feed. Make sure everything gets seated back down. Call that done. I like it. And so that means we can take this into the barrel. Oh, my mistake. Lefty-tighty on the barrel into that connector. We'll take this. Ooh, let's actually do this like we do the Parker 51 and see. This is a righty-tighty, where that's going to leave us. Did I do that right? I don't remember if I need to put the rings on first, or oh, I need to put them down the other way. So righty-loosey. Okay, I'm doing a quick cut into the video because I realized a mistake when I was kind of cutting everything together. And I saw in the beginning of the video that there was no ink view window. It was really just this and then the CapCats band, right? And so I kind of re-looked at the video, played around with my placement of the rings, and realized, oh crap, I did it wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick interlude to do it correctly. So what we have here again is the accordion filler, the connector, and here's this little space this kind of part of the accordion filler. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and say and do is grab one of the thin rings, place it over top, because I remember in the beginning I found that, oh, one of these slim rings did remove easier from the top. And see, that has a seat right there. It doesn't go down any further. And then we'll take the medium band and we'll slip it over the back end. And that, if you'll notice, this is the little part that I thought was the ink window. But notice as I slip it over, it rides over that, sits right over it and covers it up. And then I take, if I can pick it up, there we go, take the other small one and come along the back as well and sandwich it together to do that, essentially covering over what I thought was the ink window. And then, just like the Parker 51, this should, I undid it without hopefully making it messed up, but I'll see if the hood kind of screws back on where it should. I didn't mess up the placement, but there we go. There we go, that's pretty good. So what I essentially did, and I'm not sure if the video shows it, but you know, I screwed the hood on, put a thumb where that tip should be, and I think I overshot it a little bit, and put in my connector to line up with where that hood's going to wind up threading. So let me just do that. And I don't know, oh, how do I keep doing this? Okay, there we go. And should line up nicely. I'm not going to over tighten it, but that's nicely thumb tight or lightly tight, right? Then I'll take the back and turn to the left to screw on. Kind of nicely thumb tight. And there we go. So there should be no ink view window in this thing. So this is a quick interlude. Hope this fits in nicely with the rest of the video, and enjoy. And then we have the cap, which we have this little crown, has a little cutout right there-ish where you can slip it over the clip. And I'll show you the up close a little bit better in a minute. Then we have this jewel, which I'm going to thread on finger tight at first. Then I'll kind of take it to something where I can press and really get it to screw down. Make sure everything's lined up. And yeah, I have somewhere, maybe not handy, don't know where it is at the moment, a little eraser that I've used before, so I'm going to wind up just kind of pressing into that and kind of using that to tighten. And I might even have to put something into the cap just to kind of see if there's a cap that this is threading into that's a little bit, you know, wiggling around, but there we go. Where should I do it? Maybe it'd be nice to have the clip on the other side of the Kremlin, which is, I think, what that building is. So I'm going to finger tighten it for now, and I'll come back with my eraser and just kind of turn that in so it gives it a little friction. But other than that, that was a quick put together, and the cap slides right in. So I guess I didn't really point that out earlier, I guess we do have a little bit of an ink window there, just a little bonus. That's kind of nice. So let me go ahead and get everything ready. We'll come right back. I'll kind of wipe off my fingerprints and we'll do a little writing sample, and we'll talk about the random few things I know about this pen. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Alright, welcome back. We have it all polished up. I did a little bit of looking around on the internet and came up with a few things to talk about. But let's go ahead and show off what we have, and I'll kind of give you the full few bullet points I was able to figure out about this particular pen. So let's go ahead and just move the pad, see if we can zoom in a little bit, just so show some details if I can. Oh, difficulty zooming in today. So again, we have our nice kind of ruby at the top, And we have our nice kind of waterfall clip that has this on it, which has that C within the diamond, which from what I can figure out, this is a C Cyrillic S. So this is the S for this word right here is a Soyuz, S-O-Y-U-Z in English, but otherwise this would mean union, kind of written down the front of the clip. And, you know, it's a little bit springy. I couldn't quite get it to the opposite side of the Kremlin here, but it's off to the side. I think it's okay. So here, speaking of, I believe this is the Kremlin. I have another little ruby up here in the star. And it looks like we have just a cap band-ish thing of bricks. I guess that's the rest of the Kremlin. And we have this repeating pattern of 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 5 lines. So I believe, so repeating pattern, which actually makes it look pretty good. I like that. It's not just some dull plain cap band. So I like the fact that it has these like little patterns in it. So overall, the cap is what really caught my eye. I like this a lot, and this is, from what I believe, feels like rolled gold. This feels gold filled or rolled gold. It feels quality. It feels heavy. But I think I saw gold filled a few times online, so let's kind of go with that for now. Pop off the cap. We have the nice hood with our wickedly long nib. And it aligned pretty well, so I'm looking forward to trying to write with it. We have this Parker 51-esque kind of flattened feed that kind of dips right out of the hood and nestles up there in the nib itself. Pretty simple hood. Little ink window. We have our 1, 2, 3 kind of rings that act as the cap catch. Our barrel. And I believe it goes this way, and I'll try to zoom in, but I'm not going to belabor the point. There is the name of the pen right there, and I'll go ahead and tell you that in Cyrillic, this means golden feather. And I believe there's a number underneath, 583. It's a little worn, so I can't guarantee that, but this is golden feather in Cyrillic, and I'll show you in a second what it says, because I wrote it down. And we have our blind cap with a little bit of a kind of a notched lip on it, and luckily no cracks. It's intact. And we have our little plunger filler knob, and I'm going to open this back up just to show the plunger filler, because we kind of got to look at that in this other section. But there's a nice long breather tube, so hopefully we're going to get a great big fill in this thing. I mean, this breather tube is humongous, so I'm thinking this will fill really, really nicely. And let's go ahead and move this to the side. And yeah, let's go ahead and fill it first. Why not? We'll pull out a nice black ink, this Pelican. Ooh. Whoa. That was not open for a while. That's some gas escaping. Okay, let's see. Am I zoomed out? Might not see much. But then I'll turn it upside down. So I'm going to push this a bunch of times, see if we can get any air. 6. I think I'm hearing a little bit of air bubble. 7, 8, 10. 17, 18, 19, 20. Yes, somewhere in the 17, 18, 19, 20 range. I think I stopped hearing air. Take this out. We'll wipe it down. And you'll see, hopefully, the little ink view window blackened. So we have our black ink in there. Let's see if we can turn it upside down and see what it does to our accordion. And I'm going to move this up just a touch. Oh, dropped a little bit of ink. Okay. Ooh, try not to squirt it. I think I tried to tap it, but wound up pushing it a little bit. Hopefully that was me and not just it leaking. Okay, we'll see. Seems to be okay. Okay, so we go. We can see that that has become black. So we definitely have ink in there. And can we see it spill back out? As I turn it, maybe. Gets a little more opaque. Let's do this. Filling back in, yeah. It's pretty good. I have no idea how much is in there, but I will definitely squeeze this out to see what we get on the way out. So let me show you what I wrote down. Then we'll start writing with this guy. I made such a mess out of him. There we go. Okay. There we go. So here's what I wrote down. Maybe I have to move this a little bit to kind of get my writing angle. Sorry. Kind of fiddling around with these angles again. So let's see. Okay, so what I have is this was the cat, and it basically translates to Soyuz, Soyuz, which is union. And I saw online fountain pen form was kind of my friend for this one, but this C or this S for us is what they believe is in that diamond and that logo. So this is their logo, the diamond with that Cyrillic S or the C or whatever the correct term would be, and I apologize for not being able to say it. This was on the barrel of the pen, this, which translates to golden feather. I want to thank Google Translate for letting me take a picture of what I transcribed and seeing that it is golden feather. And then subsequently I did find on eBay and some other sites some people selling it specifically with this translated in this name, so I think it checks out. And then there's a number, which I think is 583. The number part of that kind of imprint on the barrel is a little bit worn, so I think it's 583. And yeah, so this is what I have from it. This is a stationery factory that was that was open in Leningrad about 1924. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they made, plastic parts, grenades apparently, or they organized grenade making in the Soviet era. But there's a lot of little nitpicky things, not nitpicky, but little tidbits you can find out about this from some websites, some Russian websites that kind of talk about the history. So I had to go to the page, copy, paste, and translate, and Google Translate. So I got a little bit of pieces of information, but from what people can really say about, or at least English collectors, or American or English-speaking collectors of these pens, say that of the various kind of fountain pen brands that were operational in Russia, the Soyuz was probably the top tier one. You would get gold nibs with these, and just like many other of the factory brands, they mostly adhere to like the Parker model, so Parker 51 hooded things. So they would often look like that, and pretty much everything I found giving an example of at least Soyuz fountain pens were Parker 51-esque. So that was kind of the thing from the 60s and onwards. And there's actually a really cool one I kind of want to get now, where there's like a goldfish model where there's within the resin is some water and a goldfish that as you kind of write, the little goldfish bobbles along. So it seems a little bit gimmicky, but I don't know, it's kind of cute. But let's go ahead and turn this and see if I can do a little bit of writing. And if anybody knows anything more specific about the brand, I would love to find out more. It's hard to kind of piece through some of these things, and I'm taking the cap off and it's a little bit leaky. I'm going to say that. I don't know if that's the feed, if I had accidentally pushed the plunger in. I don't know, but as I just sat there holding the pen, looks like some ink wanted to come out. But I also think that as I put the blank cap back on, I think I bumped this a little bit, so it might be super sensitive. But as I sit here doing this, nothing's coming out, so maybe that was my mistake, and I don't see anything bubbling out. So hopefully that was a user error. But let's go ahead and see what this guy can do. And so I'm going to write the sentence, since we already kind of know a little bit about it. Say, there we go. And there we go. And definitely a fine line. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And so fine, may even call it an extra fine. So we're somewhere in that territory. And being a fine, and this is some Pelican ink. It's a moderately wet writer, actually. It takes a minute to feather out. So yeah, I'd call it wettish. And I did dig into the paper a little bit because I'm seeing it in the tines. So a little sharp, extra fine to fine, not surprising. Let's see if we get any flex or semi-flex, being how long this nib is, and actually kind of wanting to call it semi-hooded at this point by how much that sticks out. Let's go. Able to get a decent amount of line variation with, you know, up to moderate pressure, but that's not too bad, and it comes right back down. So yeah, so you can squeeze some flexibility. So I might be daring enough to call this a little bit of semi-flex, because you can definitely do it, and it's not hard, and you definitely have the room to play with it. So that's actually not bad. Let me go ahead and do some reverse writing. Ooh, scratchy, but definitely takes it down to extra fine, extra fine even, very faint, not really getting the dark line that you would get regularly. So that's super fine, almost at the point of like, I don't know that I really want to do that, but you could. And this is a little scratchy, but not terrible. So I think definitely doable. Almost feel like it wants to catch and snap on me, so a little bit borderline in terms of the fineness catching on the paper. And overall, I mean, I looked into the loop, and this was pretty well aligned. It might do with maybe a touch of like some micro meshing just to smooth it out, but it looked really well aligned under the loop. And so it doesn't sound scratchy. It sounds fine, like a fine nib would on this Rhodia paper. Maybe the slightest bit of a lip as I go to the right. Maybe I feel something. So a little micro mesh wouldn't do this wrong. But overall, this is a pretty smooth writer. I mean, it has the sensation of a fine that wants to dig, it wants to catch, but maybe if I smooth it, it wouldn't be so bad. And if I take it through some paces, kind of go fast, 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 fast. It's actually keeping up. So this is not bad at all. I wouldn't mind doing it. This is a comfortable head. Let's go ahead and do some of the measurements. Pretty good size pen. Let's do that. And I may have gotten some ink in the cap, which I think I did, so it's going to be messy when I uncap it again. But let's go the inches, I guess. So from the top of that jewel to the bottom is about 5 1/2 inches. So 5 1/2 inches. We'll write that down because I just want to play with this a little bit. Alright, so capped 5 1/2 inches. Let's go ahead and do uncapped from the tip of the nib ish is 5 and let's say uncapped. There you go. I'm going to say 5 and kind of 1/8 inch. So didn't take out, that cap's pretty darn deep within there, so it doesn't take much off. And can we post it? Yep, post pretty deep. And it posts securely, but man, that is a heavy back weight. The pen itself feels really light. I wonder if I had a scale. I do have a kitchen scale actually. So this actually feels really light. You put that cap on, ooh, that is heavy. I mean, that's a lot of metal in there, so not surprising. But you could cap this guy. And, you know, it's a little more back heavy, but still, I mean, I don't know that I would mind it, but I don't think I'd be posting this dude. Because at 5 1/8 of an inch, this is really into my hand. This really feels comfortable. I like this a lot as far as popping this out. I have a lot of room on this hood. I mean, look how far back that cap catch is. I have a lot of room to play with. So fingers up here, nothing digging in or bothering me. And if you did, these are quite noticeable. And that's one thing I think as far as the cap band, these cap catches, this was a bit finicky. Like, I really had to make sure that as I tightened the barrel down, I had my fingers around it, kind of keeping those rings lined up. So if these get unaligned a little bit, you're going to feel it. And these are quite prominent. So as a feeling aspect, maybe a little bit of a downside. And, you know, why couldn't they just model it into one? So I don't know why it had to be 3 pieces instead of 1, but they did. But this is really quite long and really quite easy and comfortable to hold. And it actually writes really well if I just kind of lay it down. Let's see if the weight will do it. It's so light. But I barely have to put any pressure on it, and it writes. So the feed and the ink flow are really good. I mean, that's me barely touching the paper, so yeah. I like this overall. As far as just a cool Soviet pen that feels like a Parker 51. I think this did the trick. I think in terms of imitation, this is a good imitation. I mean, it's clearly taking all its marks from the Parker 51, you know, unabashedly so. But with a cool little flair of the Soviet Union. This cap is really cool. This is eye-catching. I really like this. I'd be interested to hear more about, you know, is this depicting any particular thing? I mean, I think that's the Kremlin. If anybody knows anything different, please let me know. Does this little grippy part matter? Not sure that it does, but it does give it a little bit of an eye difference compared to the Parker 51. Let me see. I'm questioning in my mind, does the lightness of this make this feel cheap? I'm not sure. I mean, the Parker 51 feel, I believe, I'm not quoting numbers, I don't know, but just off, like from memory, I feel like this is lighter than the Parker 51. I really do. So maybe this is a bit thinner of a plastic. Maybe it does feel on the cheaper side. But I mean, this is clearly stood up. I think this came to me in pretty good condition, so I'm not sure if it was really thrown around or, you know, how much of the paces it was put through. But it's in great condition. The plastic does not have any warping or rippling. As far as the material goes, I think this is pretty solid. Again, it's probably a little thinner than the Parker 51. So this was not put to extreme conditions, and I really appreciate that about it. But I'd say maybe it feels a bit on the cheap side. Maybe. But I don't think that detracts from me, knowing the rest of it is having this amazingly awesome cap. I don't know. I think this is a success. I mean, it's not really, you know, as far as Hooded Nib goes, this is probably as close to the Parker 51 as we're going to get in some of these homages, or ripoffs, or knockoffs, or anything, you know, that you want to call it. So this is pretty darn close to a Parker 51 in style. And let's actually get to the part where I want to see how much this filled. And granted, I kind of bumped things a little bit. I definitely have made my mess that I always make. And let's see if I can get an angle and show how much this filled. And I pushed this button 20 times. And I think it stopped bubbling around pump 18. So let's go ahead and see if I can push. Get a little bit of white. Line me up. That's one push. 2, 3, 4. Still getting a little bit. So we're still collecting drops. Not just bubbly drops. I mean, these are full drops. So as far as capacity, I think this actually has great capacity. I'm going to push it a few times here. Okay. Lost the bubbles. So let's see, this is about 12 to 13 before it kind of stopped giving the bubbles. So without spilling, without me writing. A lot of fat drops. It's about 6 presses, and these are drops, not bubbly drops. So I think the capacity is going to be really nice, and that's going to be a big plus in this one, which having a 5 1/8 inch pen, you should have an ink capacity at this point. Yeah, I'm really pleasantly surprised. I can't wait till I go through my current carries. Maybe I get to throw this one in. I think I should. I should also pull out a Parker 51 and see if I can write with them side by side and see what I think. I mean, I kind of like this fine nib, extra fine nib, but it wrote pretty well. I'm kind of excited to see. There we go. Stop giving it up. There we go. So if I get this a little bit on the micro mesh, I wonder if I can get it any bit smoother. And if that's the case, then this is going to be a nice little fine one. This would be good for long writing if you don't want to carry around ink. Fill this guy up. You would probably be able to travel this one and take a little bit of a, protracted writing journey with this one. So there we go. Let me get to a nice clean white page. I'm going to plop him down. Bum, bum, bum. Maybe. Put the cap there because I'm going to wash that guy out. And let's go ahead and see what we're going to do next. I think I decided upon doing this Humble Little More. It's kind of a beater pen. It's brass cap all beat up. Little slip cap. And like I said, this is the hooded-esque kind of pen that I just kind of want to do. So that's the next one. But in terms of the Soyuz, I like it. I mean, this is a good top tier for them pen. Maybe feels a bit light, writes really well. Major downside is this little ring there, and that's about it. I can't think of too much in terms of having an issue with it. I wonder over time if an accordion filler, if anything goes wrong with that accordion, how easily you can get some kind of replacement, because that is what's actually giving it the spring ability. So you can't just throw another sack. I wonder if you could do like a silicone sack, and that could be enough tension to kind of spring back on itself. But that might be a downfall as far as modern pens. If you want to refurbish this, make sure that is in good repair. See if you can source out something to replace it if you have to. But that might be a limitation with these. But that rubber is really supple, and the adhesive looked really good on it. So I'm hoping this will last me a good long time. And that's it. I'll stop rambling. So Soyuz, get yourself one. And I think I saw these for varying amounts on eBay. Some you have to clean up, maybe a little bit beat up, but they were in the, right around 100. Some of them that were a little more cleaned up, even though they had some defects. It kind of depends. We're in the 250, 275 range. So quite a variety of people offering these up, whether or not they think they can get something for these rare or not Soviet pens. So probably find one on a deal. And if not this one, then many like it. So I'd say grab one up. And with that, I'll say thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.